Right, good morning everybody. I'm glad you can join us for this morning's webinar. My name is Adam. I'm joined here this morning by Angelito, who's one of our consultants. Today we're looking at the Metaphorix solution for the construction and projects industries, MetaJOBS. As a business, Metaphorix has been working on MetaJOBS for many years now. Angelito is going to take you through the key benefits of MetaJOBS, along with a quick demo of how it all works this morning. But before we get into that, just to let you know, the session is being recorded and will be available to view online over the next few days. Don't forget to check out also the other webinars that we're running throughout this year. All of these can be found on our events page on the website. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Angelito and we'll get started.
Hello everyone, Angelito again. I'll go through with the slide and then I'll discuss first the benefits of MetaJOBS, and then after the slide I'll present the system, and then at the end of the presentation we'll show you the summary of benefits. Okay, let's discuss the benefits of MetaJOBS to businesses, one of which is subcontractor purchase processing. In this area, companies will be able to keep track of subcontractor transactions within the business. In contract sales processing, it allows the business to monitor project agreements with a customer for a given job or project. Both subcontractor purchase processing and contract sales processing are integrated with a standard job in Microsoft Dynamics NAV. These are the following benefits in using the subcontractor purchase transactions in MetaJOB. One is certifications. It allows you to monitor any certificates for a given vendor in case you want them to adhere to health and safety or any documentation related to the certifying body in the government. And if you require them, you can monitor that or control that in the system. CIS controlled verification. It allows you to check the subcontractor record in your system and then match it with the record with HMLC, so you know that you are dealing with the certified or verified subcontractor. Third is you can monitor multiple agreements, and then you can track different cumulatives out of that contract. Next is payment application. So in this payment application, it's kind of it allows you to monitor the application from your subcontractor. For example, if they need to raise the application based on what they have completed, then you can monitor that, and it will also calculate for retention. And then the next process, when you receive an application from a subcontractor, you then process the invoice, and then that includes the CIS deductions when you pay them as well. Also, an added benefit on integrating or using MetaJOBS within NAV, it includes a direct link to the HMRC website. The link is useful for you to verify the subcontractor, and also when you submit your monthly returns. On the CIS verification, there are two ways on how you can verify a subcontractor. It's either you do it manually using the system, or you use the system to interact with the HMRC portal, and then HMRC will respond at the background. Contract sales processing allows the business to engage with your customers based on agreement or contract, from raising an application on the completed job, based on the completed work, to receiving the payment. And it's all covered within this area, including retentions and valuation schedules. Valuation schedules are the dates you have pre-agreed with your customers that these are the dates that you need to raise, you need to invoice, etc. All of these transactions are all integrated to jobs. So if you're familiar with the standard job in Dynamics NAV, then you will only just link your transactions to the job, and all the transactions will be recorded as job ledger entries when you post either of this subcontractor and contract sales processing. From the word itself, MetaJOBS, the subcontractor and contract sales are integrated with its standard job. An added benefit is allowing you to specify a specific job and link it with multiple contracts for both subcontractors and customer. So in this case, you can have a single job and then link it to a multiple subcontractor contracts, or a sales contract for customers. So you can have multiple for both sides. In jobs or projects, it contains all relevant information about the job. You as the business owner will allow to monitor your budgets, actuals, and forecasted revenue. Aside from this, cost can be broken down to different cost types or cost header in MetaJOBS term. And these are, for example, material, subcontracting, labor, plant and overheads. This will allow you to drill down the specific transaction related to a job, which kind of cost is this related for. And this is the purpose of the cost header. The change on the departments menu for MetaJOBS are the following. If you look at this on the financial management, we've added subcontractors, and we've added a new menu specific for subcontractors itself. This will give you the subcontractor contracts, subcontractor order, etc. And for the contract sales side of MetaJOBS, we've added a new button or option in sales and marketing called contract sales. And these are basically the changes in the department menu. At the later stage of this webinar, I'll give you a quick look on how on what we have developed for the Power BI pack. Power BI pack is an additional solution added on top of MetaJOBS for your reporting needs. So I'll give you a quick look at the later stage of this webinar. Just to put a note, if you need to use Power BI and integrate it with MetaJOBS, Power BI needs to be licensed separately, so it is outside of the standard MetaJOBS. So it's a different solution. Okay, so let's now have a look in the system. Just give you a look and feel what MetaJOBS is all about. In this webinar, I'm using as a project manager role center, and then I've added all my sample jobs on my role center. Before I go into detail of the MetaJOBS transactions, I'd like to discuss what are the components or masters that you need to set up before you can make transactions within the system. First thing first is you need jobs, obviously. So you need to set up a job in the system. In this case, I have pre-set up this job number 290. And then I'll give a quick look on that side. And then the next one is you need dimensions. Dimensions is used for drilling down all your costs related to any project. And then I'll show you that later on. Next one is you need subcontractors. Subcontractors are basically a vendor within MetaJOBS. And just to put a note, if you're familiar with the standard Dynamics NAV, vendors is a table in the system. And also with MetaJOBS, we've added a new table, or we've created a new table separately just to cater the subcontractors side. And the next master you need is customers, items, GL accounts. And aside from those masters, we've added a new kind of line type, which is standard contract parts, and you can use this in a contract. Standard contract parts, basically, if you have a contract with either subcontractor or customer, and you wanted, or you don't want the user not to directly specify to a specific GL account, you use instead standard contract parts, and that standard contract parts relates to a product posting group, and that can be linked to a GL account. Okay. All of these masters, I'll go through that in a while. And then let's go first on the job card. So in my example, I'll be using this job 290. If I go to this one. Okay, if you're familiar with the standard job card in Dynamics NAV, we haven't modified the standard or completely changed the standard job. We have only added some bits of information within the job card. We've added this project details, so you can see here additional information about the project, like any dates about the project. And then on the personal side, we've added the persons that you can link to a job, like project manager, project director, etc. So you can see on the screen. And on the shipping tab, we've added ship to site address. Whenever you link this to a purchase order or subcontractor order in the system, you then have the ability to change the ship to address of the purchase transaction or purchase order. Instead of ship to a warehouse, you use this as ship to the site address. Okay. And then on the navigate options, we've added this sales contract overview and subcontract overview. Basically, this will give you a list of sales contracts linked to this particular job. And as I said earlier, you can link multiple contracts, sales contracts, to a single job, as well as multiple subcontractor contracts to a single job. So you will see you could have, for example, multiple agreements with multiple or different subcontractors and link it to a single job. So you will see each and every contracts pertaining to a single subcontractor. You will see the cumulative billings or trackings on that kind of contract. Okay, we've added also some statistics on the right side. As you can see, you can have breakdown of what's happening on your contracts, on your job rather. And then on the task level, these are the tasks that you need to perform for a specific job. And the things that we've added on this job task are the following: outstanding subcontractor orders and subcontractor amount received not invoiced. So this outstanding orders is standard in standard job code, and this amount received not invoiced is standard as well. So when you use MetaJOBS, you will see these two columns here. Okay, so that's job. The other master that you need to maintain is the standard contract part, which is this one. So basically, you create a list of contract parts, and this can be applied either subcontractor or sales contract. In this example, I've entered this kind of part, and then if I go to edit, you will see that this is linked to a cost header, and this is linked to a product posting group. And this product posting group will now carry the specific GL account, so you don't have to maintain or you don't have to remember the specific GL account when you raise transactions against this. It's kind of like an item. You use product posting group and derive the GL account out of it. Okay, next is dimensions or cost headers. Dimensions are used for analyzing your transactions across the system. And with MetaJOBS, there is a prerequisite or a mandatory dimension that you need to maintain, which is the cost header. In this example, I called it cost header and dimension. And then if you go to dimension values, you will see the different cost headers. So you will see like directors for labor, plant, materials, etc. So you have to maintain this. So when you use MetaJOBS, you will be required to enter cost headers when you post transactions in either purchase side or subcontractor purchases. And cost header dimension is mandatory to be defined as global dimension too. So whenever you go to the specific screen of MetaJOBS, you will see cost header as one of the columns across the system. So again, cost header should be maintained as global dimension too. Okay, one thing is the subcontractors. The rest, customers, items, and GL accounts are all standard in MetaJOBS or in Dynamics NAV. So let's go to a sample subcontractors. So let's have a look on this one, AG Subcontracting Limited. If I edit it, I want to see the information of this subcontractor. The way you create a vendor in standard Dynamics NAV is also pretty similar on how you create a subcontractor card in MetaJOBS. The only thing that you need to remember is you need to fill in on the invoicing FASTAB, where you need to specify the subcontractor cost type, which is considered if you're, for example, if you raise a transaction against this subcontractor, you need to declare whether all the amounts pertaining to this subcontractor is a label or non-label. Because when you submit your return to its MRC, the CIS deduction will only consider the labor amount. But if you mention this as default label here on this subcontractor card, you can change it in the transaction. The next thing that you need to fill up is, or at least define on a subcontractor, is the billing agreement. Billing agreement is how the invoicing will happen. There are three options here: tax invoice, self-billing, self-billing ATR. ATR means authenticated tax receipt. But the process for self-billing and self-billing ATR is almost the same. And for the tax invoice, instead of you generating the invoice for self-billing and self-billing, the tax invoice works as you receive an invoice from your subcontractor, and that's it. Another field that you need to consider when setting up subcontractor is also on the CIS details. You will see here the CIS information about that vendor or subcontractor. There are a couple of business types across the subcontractor industry, so you have to mention that as well on the CIS details of the subcontractor. And these are company, sole trader, etc., as you can see on the options. And you have to mention all the relevant information about that subcontractor, like unique tax reference, registration number. And on the right side, you will see the verification number or verification details of a subcontractor. There are two options on how to verify a subcontractor. One is you can perform a manual verification. Manual verification is you enter the verification number, when is the verification date, and the tax treatment status. The options for the treatment status, if you're familiar with the construction industry scheme, unmatched means you will deduct 30%. So that says every time you make a payment to your subcontractor, 30% will be deducted. Gross will be 0 deduction, and net will be 20. And this percentage can be defined in a subcontractor setup. So whenever the policy with its MRC changes, you can change it in the system as well in this subcontractor setup. This is how you manually verify a subcontractor. The second option is you can do an online verification. So you don't have to go each and every subcontractor and verify them, but instead you load all your subcontractors and click a particular record, and then either you want to select multiple. In this example, I have selected 4 subcontractors. So if I confirm at the bottom, if I click this one, it will filter on what you have selected. So to select it, you just click either match or verify, and then you will just press send. And when you send this, it will give you, at the background, it will process it, and then it will tell you after given time that the verification is completed, and it will give you a status as well. If there are some errors on the processing of the verification, system will also present you with the errors here. So these are the details of the verification, and you can reprocess it if you want to. Okay, so that's how you create and maintain or verify your subcontractor. And I believe you are ready for creating transactions. So we have set up the project, we have set up the dimensions, subcontractors, customers, items, GL accounts, and standard contract parts. So let's have a look on how to create transactions within MetaJOBS. So what are the options? First is you can create subcontractor contracts. Contracts, basically, from the word itself, it's an agreement with your subcontractor that they need to perform for a specific job. So in this example, I have pre-created a subcontractor contract card, which is, this is linked to AG Subcontracting Limited, and I've linked this to a job. So I'm saying that, or I agreed with this subcontractor that they need to perform this subcontracting works to this job. and then you specify the details on the header on the general file tab, and then in the line you have to specify the GL account if you want to, and then an option here, as I mentioned earlier as well, standard contract part. So you can include GL account in standard contract part. Items are not applicable in contract because it's more on the cumulative tracking of a given contract. So you don't really need an item line here. You just need to specify the agreement between you as business and your subcontractor. Okay, and then once you have selected the GL account number, you have to specify this job number is by default based on the job number on the header. And what you need to do is you just need to specify the job task number. So if you look at here, this line represents the installation task of the project. And then you can override the description if you want to. Default subcontractor cost type is how the amount will be calculated, or what is the amount related to. So it's either VAT, non-labor, and labor. And specify here the agreed amount for this task, for example. So I've mentioned here 25K and then 5K for the other. I need to update the cost header for use this one. Okay. And in this contract line, or subcontractor contract line, you will see contract amount, you will see discount amount, applied amount, certified amount, and retention. So given these columns or fields within the lines, you will be able to track your cumulatives. So whenever you have a contract of a given subcontractor for this much, you will see on the line level how much have they applied already, how much you have certified, meaning you have confirmed that you're going to pay them, and how much you have paid them in actual. And also another field is the retentions. Whenever you agreed with your subcontractor, you will deduct some retention, and then retention will be released after completion of the contract. So you can do that as well. So this is per line level, so you can monitor per line level, or you can monitor them by contract level. So in the totals FASTA, this is new FASTA, which is obviously a new page, which is the subcontractor contract cards. You will see the cumulative figures for a given contract, and you will also see the retention amounts or any discounts related to it. So from the overall contract level, so you know that I have this much of contract and we have certified already this amount. Okay, and then once you have specified all the lines, you can also mention some retention here as based on the calculation on this 250. You will mention all the relevant dates, like when is the expected completion date of this contract, then actual completion date of this contract. The next thing that you need to set up when you use subcontractor contracts is you specify evaluation schedule. So here, these are the dates you have pre-agreed with your subcontractors, like application date and payment due date, etc. So you can have multiple. So let's give it as an example. Once you have created this subcontractor contracts, and next thing I need to do is I'll release it, and then I'll process the next transactions. So I have this contract 78. So let's say, for example, you receive an application from your subcontractor, which is AG Subcontracting, and they have applied for a specific amount out of that contract. The next process you need to do is you use subcontractor application journal. So this is basically receiving any application from your subcontractors relevant to a contract. So in here, you specify the contract, which is 78 in my example. Okay, and then the details will be populated. And then if you go to the detail, you will see the contract lines. And in my example, let's say this 5,000 amount was the previous application amount. So let's say they have applied for another 5, or let's say 10,000. So you have to enter the amount in application moment, and you can also enter on the line. So if you have multiple lines in your contracts, you can specify the application amount per line in this page. So once you've entered the application amount, you just press OK, and the line details on this page will be shown as well based on what you've entered on the detail page. So when you're happy on this application amount, you just click Post. This subcontractor applied for 10,000. So let's see what will happen to your contract if I select yes. Posted. If I go back to my contract, which is 78, you will see at the line level, the applied amount has been updated. And if you click on the amount, it will give you the transaction or entry relevant to that one, which is this one, 10,000. Okay, and you can also see that in the totals, and you can also click that, and it will give you the same screen. The next step you need to do is, once you have received the application amount, so you just record all the application from your subcontractors, and then when you need to certify them, you just go to the application. Okay, sorry. You either go to the payment notice, subcontractor payment notice, or use these options here, payment notice. And then the advantage of using that payment notice option in contract, it will default all the values from your contract, so you don't have to enter it. Then specify which valuation it is related to, and then use any document reference from your subcontractor. And then here you need to specify the certified amount. So they have said that they've applied for 15 grand, and then you want to certify them for, let's say, what they are supposed to do, and I can confirm that this is 15 as well. So I need to mention the certified amount or the amount to be invoiced or confirmed on the certified amount. And you will see here the labor amount is by default suggested because your type here is labor, but you can split it out. So if you want to split it, for example, out of this 15, 5,000 is the non-labor. So the only thing that will be deducted on the CIS is only the labor amount. So as you can see here, you have retention and line amount. And line amount minus the retention amount, and then if I click refresh, you should get this total figure, 14,250. So subcontractor payment notice is terminology within the system, but in effect to your subcontractor, it will be the invoice or the payable to your subcontractor. So when you post this question is default to jobs, so because we have not linked to a job planning line, so I just ignore it. Just select yes. And then posted subcontractor document or payment notice or invoice is generated. So if you want to see the sample for this, just make it the preview. Okay, so basically this is the invoice. So the format can be changed as per your format, but by default this is the kind of certificate. Some people would call this a certificate, and you issue this certificate to your subcontractor. And then you will see here the the value of words, and then value certified because of the retention, and then the amount being certified. And then if you look at your subcontractors, or if you look at your contracts, you will see the figures as well change. Either on the line level, you see here 20, so it's over. We've overpaid them or certified them. But you can do that, and then you will see in the certified amount on the contract level. And that's it. You process the subcontractor contract, you raise applications, and then you certify them using the subcontractor payment notice. This is for cumulative kind of billing with the subcontractor. But if you're, for example, if you want to keep track of quantity-based kind of agreements with your subcontractors, you can also do that. And you will be using subcontractor orders. Subcontractor orders basically, it's like a purchase order without any relevant contract. But if you're saying that this subcontractor order is also related to a contract, you can also specify it and link it against this field or within this field. So in my example, I'll just raise a sample purchase order, which is called subcontractor in MetaJOBS for subcontractors. And then you specify all the lines here, the specific amount, job, etc. And then you specify the cost header, any amount relevant to this purchase order or subcontractor order. And this is basically like a purchase order for subcontractor. And you will see also the non-labor and labor amount. And then you can either post this as invoice and receipts. This is useful if you want to keep track of quantity monitoring against your subcontractor pertaining to an agreement of an order. So in subcontractors also, there are a couple of transactions that you can use aside from contracts and orders. You can also use subcontractor return orders, where in fact the standard way of returning any services or crediting any services, use or item if you want to. And invoices, if you want to raise directly an invoice without having to start with subcontractor orders and just straight away raise invoices from that subcontractor. And then credit memos, you offset the invoices from that subcontractor. Okay, and when you make a payment, for example, if you have done or if you have certified a subcontractor already, you just go to subcontractor payment journal. This is not the standard payment journal. This is the specific payment journal for a subcontractor. Then you just specify, okay, let's take an example, that invoice we've raised. Okay, you can see here transactions being suggested based on the transaction ledger, subcontractor ledger entries. So you will use this payment journal or subcontractor journal for paying the subcontractors, and you will see the figure here in the VAT component. The purpose of this is you will be able to see the CIS tax deduction, because in MetaJOBS or subcontractors, CIS deduction is only happening at the payment stage. So you will see the deductions here, and then you post it. Okay, and then if you go back to your contracts, you will see the update as well. So you can see there's a paid amount on the contract level and also on the line level. So you will keep track of any transaction against the contract. So that's how you process contracts or any transactions relevant to a subcontractor. The next one is contract sales. I have pre-created also sample sales contract. And this one is sales contract 48. This is for Canon Group, and I have linked this as well to against a specific job number, which is the same job. Then I specify all the lines here, and also you need to mention the job task number and the agreed amount within this for that customer. And you can see similar concept with the subcontractor. You will be able to see the applied amount, certified amount, and amount paid against this contract line or as a whole. So you will see on the totals as well. And same thing, you can specify any retention against this contract. So whenever you raise invoices, you will be withholding some amounts against that. Or if you have agreed with your customer that they will be withholding some amounts. And then you also specify valuation schedule. And valuation schedule, again, is the pre-agreed dates with your customers. And then you will see here per line level, per valuation schedule line, you will see what's happening on that schedule line, aside from looking at the contract level. So you will see that there was an application made against this valuation and it was certified already. Okay, next is once you have created a contract, let's say, for example, you've completed the job against this customer. In sales contract, you will be treated as a subcontractor to your customer. So you will either raise an application to them or straight away raise an invoice or post an invoice against that customer. To process the application, you need to open your sales contract. You can see on the home ribbon, you can see sales application. This, when you click that, it will automatically suggest all the details, including customer, job number, and the customer. And then you just need to specify which valuation schedule it is related to. So for example, I want to apply for this much, for example, 15,000. So I've applied 15,000 for this contract. Then I can see that there's a retention calculation here. So that is default on the contract, which is 48. So you will see the figure here and retention. And then you just need to click post once you're happy with that. So once you posted the contract or sales application rather, you will see that in your applied amount as well. So when you click the applied amount, it will present to you the entries against that will explain the amount. Next is you have applied for the completed work, and then let's say, for example, you have received a certification from your customer. You will then record that as sales payment notice in the system or in MetaJOBS. Sales payment notice also is an invoice to your customer. So this is outstanding receivable to your customer. So if you click this sales payment notice, then it will, by default, it will also suggest all the information against that contract, so you don't have to manually key in. Then link the evaluation number. Then any documentation related or document reference, you can specify it in the external document number. In this case, will be the certificate number, for example. And then on the line level, you just need to specify the certified amount based on what you have applied. You can see, for example, 20 grand has been applied. Then they have certified as well for 20 grand. Because, okay, I'll change this to 15 because there was an application made before of 5,000, so I'll make this 15,000. Certified amount, so you need to specify the amount here, and then you will see the figure breakdown on the line level. When you're happy with that, and you just click post, this will give you the actual invoice. If you go to navigate, you will see that this has been updated across this entry. So you will see customer ledger entry, job ledger entry, etc., and retention. If I want to see the printout, can print it, preview. Basically, this is like an invoice as well, but the header or document name is called sales payment notice. Okay, you will see the gross valuation amount and then what's been certified. Again, this can be customized against based on your format. So once you have applied and certified, you then have to wait for the payment of that certificate. In the customer side, MetaJOBS uses the standard cash receipt journal to receive a payment from customer. So there's no change on this one. You just receive the amount, receive the amount against that customer, then apply it, and that will apply to your contract. Let's say customer Canon Group. Then you apply this to that payment notice. So when you apply the payment from a customer, you will see a document. Yep. So I want to apply the payment to that. Okay, so I only received 15 out of 7 grand of certification, so they have partially paid it. Post it, and then when you, after posting the payment, if you go back to your contract as well, you will see the amount on the line level. There's some paid amount there. And on the contract level, you will see the payment amount. Okay. Other transactions that you can do in the contract sales, aside of the cumulative billings, what we just did are sales applications, sales payment notice, etc. And the other options that you can do with MetaJOBS, you can also raise a contract sales order. Basically, this is on-demand kind of order. So whenever you receive an order from a specific customer or contractor, you just record it as contract sales order instead of having a contract. So it's not required to have sales contracts or subcontractor contracts, but if you only engage based on order-to-order basis, so you can use the contract sales order as well. And if in the future if you want to link it to, or if you need to link it to a contract, you can also do that in the contract sales order. And then you link the job number and specify all the details. Again, this is a kind of agreement with your customer based on quantity. So if you want to monitor by quantity, so let's say how many hours spent against this project, and then you monitor by quantity. So you use, instead of applications or sales payment notice where it's not controlled by quantity. So in this case, you will be using contract sales order if you want to control by quantity. Then you specify all the details, and this will be the same process. And then by posting it, and then ship an invoice, etc. Okay. And then the other options that you can do with the contract sales is you can raise a direct contract sales invoice or contract sales return order. And you can also raise a contract sales credit memo against it. Okay, then just standard way of processing credit memo, you specify the job number. So in all transactions with MetaJOBS, the one thing, or the most important thing you need to remember, is you need to always link to a job. So whether it is related to a customer, to a subcontractor, or a vendor, you need to specify all the time the job number. And for cost related, you need to specify cost headers as dimension. On the purchase side, on the vendor side, we have just added on the order level, which is on the purchase order, we just added a job number on the header, and that's it. You just need to specify the job number if it's related to a job. If it's not, leave the job number as blank. Okay. That's processing the transactions within the system for MetaJOBS and contract sales. I'll give you a quick look on the CIS return for to cover this in the subcontractor side. So if I go to CIS monthly return, this is your returns monthly, which are the transactions relevant to subcontractors, where you issue or you submit your returns to its MRC. And then in this return, you will see all the entries against that subcontractor and what are the relevant deducted amount or amount being deducted against that subcontractor. And you could include multiple subcontractors in one return. And you will see here you can print the statement as well, and then tax return summary. So if you want to see the details of that, you can print the document. And then once you are happy with the documentation or the amounts suggested by the system, you then have to confirm any declarations here, and then you submit it online. So this submit online will send it directly to its MRC, so no manual interventions happening in here. So you just click the button, and your return will be submitted accordingly. And also you will see the status of that return, whether you get an error on processing the return. So you will see that in this CIS online request. So you will see all the errors pertaining to a given return, and then you can reprocess it and submit it if there are some errors. Okay, the last thing I need to show is the Power BI pack. I think we have covered most of the MetaJOBS transactions. And then the next thing is this standard Power BI pack. So we have developed a standard Power BI pack for MetaJOBS, so you can see the amounts across the transactions within MetaJOBS. So you will see here subcontractor contract values, customer contract value, which is the sales contract value, and relevant and other details about the PO value, purchase orders, contract sales orders, profit, revenue. So this one, you can filter this, for example, if you want by job, you can do that by customer, by project manager, or by description of the job. And this has been developed specifically for MetaJOB. So again, if you require Power BI, just get in touch with our sales team for this one. Going back to the slide to summarize it. So we have done the subcontractor purchase processing, contract sales processing, and as we know, all of these two are related or integrated to projects or job within the standard Dynamics NAV. Okay, I'll pass you over to Adam.
Thanks for that, Angelito. I hope you all found that useful and interesting. Our next webinar is in a few weeks' time. We're going to be looking at warehouse management, so keep an eye out for an invite for that. And also you can check out the events page and see what else we've got coming up. If you've got any questions regarding MetaJOBS or anything that you've seen today, those are all my contact details up on the screen. Please feel free to give me a call or drop me an email, and I'll help you out. So yeah, thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you again next time. Cheers, thank you.